Welcome to session number 6 of OAuth with Access Manager. In this session, we are going to explore another grant which is called the Implicit OAuth grant. Implicit OAuth grant is used by the client application which generally resides on the user device or mobile devices. Uh, this application can use some kind of JavaScript and open an internal browser uh, to make this particular flow to work. It it is different from the previous authorization code flow grant. In the authorization code flow grant, basically the user log into the system and then provide the consent, and then it gets a code and then it passes the code to get the token. But in the implicit OAuth grant, the user uh, there will be a browser which will open. User will provide the login information. He will also provide the consent, but the only difference is in place of getting the token, the user will directly get the in place of getting the code, the authorization code, the client application will directly get the access token. So there is no code in between. Client application will make a request to the identity server. The user need to log in, provide the consent, and the token will be with the, and IDP server will send the token to the client application. So to test this particular grant, I have created a new user which is OAuth implicit user, and you can see the NIDS OAuth grant is not populated. So the first thing what we need to do, we need to go to the client application. Edit the client application, and here you can see the grants required implicit is not checked. Check this option. When you check this option, this particular thing came up which says to select something. What we are gonna do, we'll just select it to none. We will talk about this later. Modify the client. Okay. Okay, and now we will go to the, let's go to implicit code flow, click on the, select the client, resource server, redirect URI, scope, some state, and send this value. Once you send this value, you can see the login page came, which is exactly similar to the authorization code flow. Click on sign in, and you can basically see there is a token came, but the token you cannot see here because it came as a fragment. So you can see here this came as a fragment to this particular page, and I have not put the option to read from the fragment. So what you can do, you can just generally client application know the rule how to do that. What we can do here, we can paste it somewhere. This. Okay. And this is your access token up to here. This is the access token. Another thing what you can do when you access the implicit code flow, okay, so you can basically if you have seen that the the code, the token came as a fragment in the URL. You can change the way Access Manager is sending the token um, to the redirect URI. So let's see this figure redirect URI file ACR values. We'll leave this, and the response mode. This is the one which is we are going to explore now. You can basically do something called form underscore post, and if you click that, as you remember, we have already authenticated and there is a session established there. So when I click on the send, I'm getting the access token in the post uh, as a as a um, as a form post to the redirect URI. So I can see everything here. There is another way what you can do. You can use it as query. If you do a query, it will come as a query string. So if you see this URL, it is something called question mark and then the various values as starts. So there are three form. One is the query, which is this particular way. Another is the fragment where uh, it will be something like this, where the value is starting after the hash. Here there is a third form is the using the post, and you can so this depends on the client application, how the client application is developed, what all the different uh, um, the way to reading the response data it has implemented. So based on that, you need to pass that particular uh, attribute. It is called response mode. If you go and see the source, you can see response mode here. If you have noticed that I have not used the newly created user which I have created for the implicit grant. So if I have not used that and use any other user, as the consent is already given, I did not get the consent page. So right now I will go again and try with the new user. So I'll go to the implicit code flow, type this and fill all other values. Response mode, I will take as form underscore post and click. I get a username password form and I will use the new user OAuth implicit user sign in. Looks like I entered the wrong information. It is OAuth implicit user. So I will get a consent page. So in the previous try we did not use the new user, so it has already, that particular user had already given consent, so it did not ask. So if I select this accept, I get the access token already. There is no code exchange is going on here. The token directly comes to the client application. So there is another thing which we are going to explore now is a parameter called ACR underscore values. So if you have seen, when we either use the authorization code or the implicit code grant, uh, when the user submits the data, what it does, it gives a login form to do the what you say to for the user to authenticate. Now all the time what you see the default contract getting executed. Default contract is something which is assigned So if you go to local and you can see default, this is the contract which is executing. Now, what if I don't want this contract to be executed? My security criteria is something else. So what you can do for that case, you can go to your contract and pick the URI of your contract. So if you see, default contract was the name password form, but I want to execute the secure name password form. So I have taken the URI of the secure name password form contract, and then I will access the tool implicit code flow values. ACR value. Here we are going to give the URI. Let's use the form post and click on this. So you can see the contract is changed, and now it is the secure name password form. So you can execute any contract which you want to execute, and this you can do with authorization code flow as well. So to do that, what you basically need to do is you if you go and view source, you need to add another entry called response mode here, and it will work. So this is the end of the implicit uh, code grant. The way to access the token info, token introspection, and other thing is exactly similar as authorization code, which we discussed in the previous sessions. In the next session, we are going to discuss another code flow, which is called the uh, resource owner or password grant flow. Before I end the session, I will just like to mention that if you want to learn more about the implicit grant, go to the documentation and appendix, OAuth concept, and OAuth authorization grant. Click on the implicit authorization grant, and you can basically learn about it. To build the request to implicit grant, what you have to do, you have to go here in the developer documentation. Maybe goes like this. Under the developer documentation, go to the OAuth automatic connector guide and just search for implicit, and you can get the information about the implicit flow. What all the different things are required using the implicit flow, you can see here. Thank you.